In this video, I'll show you how to create your own digital catalog layout with rollover buttons, all using Adobe InDesign. Follow along and learn how to set up a digital catalog document and design a two-page spread. We'll also add rollover button interactivity to trigger different product colors in this digital catalog. I've added chapters in this video, so you can jump to different sections or stick around from start to finish. As always, there's lots to cover, so let's jump right into this video and start creating. Let's start by creating a new document. So I'm going to click on New File, which will bring up the new document window. From my options up top, I'm going to click on Web. And then the document size we'll be working on in this lesson is A4. So go ahead and click the A4 preset here. That adjusts the width and height automatically. The orientation will be portrait. We do want 2 pages, so type in 2. We want to turn on facing pages because this is going to be a magazine style spread. And then don't worry about setting the columns right now. We'll do that when we create the guides. I'm going to scroll down just a bit so we can get to the margins, and let's increase the margin size to 52. So type that in and then just hit your tab key and that will automatically set the others. Just make sure that the link is on. Once you have these settings, go ahead and click Create. Now, like I mentioned, this is going to be a spread, and you'll notice in my pages panel that page 1 is acting as the cover and then page 2 is beneath it. So I want these to be facing pages, a true facing pages spread. So to do that, just go to your pages panel options here, click the hamburger icon, and then we want to choose this option here, allow document pages to shuffle. So go ahead and click that. And what that allows us to do is now take page 2 and drag it next to page 1 to the left of it and then just release. And now you can see we have facing pages. Next, let's add the guides to our project. So for this, we'll double click the A Parent thumbnail, which will take us to the parent pages. And from there, go to Layout, Create Guides. And we want to add 4 columns to this project. So just set the columns number to 4. The gutter size or the gutter width at 12 pixels is fine. Make sure that your preview box is checked here so you could see the changes in real time. And then make sure that the Fit Guides to option here is set to margin and not page. You can see the difference here if I click page. It just looks a little bit cleaner when it's set to the margins and not page. Once you have that, click OK, and now we can go back to page 1 in our layout. I want to add some additional guides that will help us when we're adding the content to our layout here. So first, I'm going to add a horizontal guide. You can just do that by clicking the top ruler here and dragging out one of the guides. And you can see in the y-axis in the top left, I want that to be around 285. Or let's do 286. Something like that is fine. I'm going to grab another one and have a look at the y-axis again. I want this to be 385 or around there. Something like that is fine, 386.94, just to keep consistent. I'm going to grab another one, and this will be around 420 pixels in the y-axis. So somewhere around there is fine. And we're going to add one more here. So just drag one more, and this will be around 690, around that area. Something like that. Keep going. Perfect. Something like that is fine. Again, this is optional. It just adds a little bit more organization when you're adding the content, the images to the layout. One other thing I'd like to do is I'm just going to grab the line tool here, and I'm going to draw a line on this guide here. And then with my left arrow key, I'm going to press that 12 times to represent 12 pixels. Remember, the gutter width in this layout is 12 pixels. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And we have equal spacing there. And what I'll do is just grab another guide here and place it right there. And after you do that, you can go ahead and delete that line. Next, let's create rectangle shapes that will serve as backdrops to the hanging light images we'll add shortly. So for this, I'm just going to click on the rectangle frame, and I'm going to start by adding a rectangle frame here. And I'll just adjust it so it's snapped to that guide. And I want this to be around 185 pixels in depth. So just break that link to unconstrain the proportions. And in the height field, type in 185. And that's good there. I'm just going to snap it to the top margin. And for this, I'm going to create a new swatch. So go to your swatches panel and let's just go to the options here and create a new color swatch. Let's rename this Catalog Gray or whatever you like. And I want to switch the color mode to RGB since this will be viewed on screens on web. And let's just make the color code F2, F2, F2. Hit your tab key and then just simply click OK. And you can see that that swatch is now my swatches panel. I'm going to click that first rectangle and give it the catalog gray color. Let's create 2 more copies up top. So I'm going to click this, hold my Option key, that would be Alt on Windows, and drag another copy to the right of that, and then drag another copy to the right of that. And I could select all of these here, and while holding Option again, drag them all down to create 3 more copies and snap it to that guide that I created there. Now let's just repeat those guides, those additional guides on the right-hand page. Do the same thing, snap one up here, and then just line them up like so, the best you can, and like that as well. Now that the rectangle shapes have been placed in the layout, we could start adding the images to the pages. Let's start by adding the main image on the far left. So in the files here, I have all the images in a folder called Hanging Lights, and you can see main light there. Now you can go to File and Place, but what I'm going to do is actually just drag this onto my layout here, and you can see it's in my loaded cursor. And I'm just going to click and drag. I like to hold Shift so I have more control on the size of the frame, and then I can adjust that accordingly as well. So hold Shift and then snap the frame from the left side margin to this guide here, and you can see that the image is now placed. Now I can also snap that to the very top. Click the donut or content grabber, and as a quick reference, Shift Option Command C to make that fit proportionally. And then what I can do is hold Option Command and greater than to increase the size. Now I'm just going to scroll up a bit, and I'm just going to hold Shift and press the down arrow button to bring that content down, and something like that is fine. I can even increase that a little bit more, so Option Command greater than, maybe a couple more times, and then just adjust that accordingly. Move to the left, right, use your arrow keys, and then of course go ahead and adjust the frame so that the image is visible throughout. Next, I'm going to add the other 6 images, so I'll bring back my Finder window here, and you can see that I have light 1 through 6. Now it's important when you're dragging them over, click number 1 first, hold Shift, and then click the number 6 version and drag those onto the page. And you can see they're in my cursor again in the order that I want them to appear on the page. So let's start with this one here. And what I'm going to do is actually start at the very top of the margin here and then click and drag. Again, hold Shift. We can adjust these after, so don't worry about the size or the position just yet. Again, I'm just holding Shift when I'm dragging, so I have a little bit more control on the size of the frame. You want the depth of them to be similar. So again, we'll start on this guide down here, hold Shift, something like that. Same thing here, click, and then hold Shift, and then release. And then last one here, hold Shift and release. Now the idea here is I want the pendant, the hanging part of the light, to come out of the shape. So I'm going to start with the first one here, Option Command greater than, and then we just want this to be a good size and then just bring it up. So we want the actual light to be above this guide because we're going to be adding the information underneath. So that might be a little too big. Just scale back, Option Command less than, and then adjust accordingly. Now what you want to do here is I'm going to click off and then adjust the frame the way you want. So maybe have it snap to that guide there, or just even can bring it up a little bit as well. And then just adjust this accordingly. And then what you want to do is center this frame to the rectangle. Once you see that green guide appear, showing you the smart guide there, showing you it's centered, you can release, okay? So that's how the first one will look. Let's keep going here. Option Command, and then just increase that. Make sure that the hanging part, the pendant, the wire, what have you, is at the top of the shape. Okay, so that looks pretty good. Maybe one more, and you can maybe bring that down a bit. Something like that looks good. Okay. So you also want these to be similar in size. You don't want one light to be larger than the other. So something like that. And then again, let's center that to the shape, and then click the content grabber and adjust that to the center of that frame. So always you can go to your preview mode here by pressing W to turn everything off, the guides and whatnot. So just kind of eyeball it and see what looks good. But let's keep going. Click the content grabber on the third one, Option Command greater than, and then move it up with your up arrow key. Something like that. Might be too big. Let's move it to the right. Yeah, it's too big. So let's go back down one. Something like that looks good. And then just adjust the frame accordingly like so. Let's move to the fourth light here. Click the content grabber, Option Command. That would be Alt Control on Windows, by the way. And then just adjust that accordingly. Something like that looks pretty good. I'm happy with that. Click that light there, the content grabber, Option Command, maybe 1 or 2 hits. Adjust that. By the way, let's adjust this one so it's centered to the shape, and adjust that frame, adjust this frame, move this up a bit, something like that. We have one more light here, so click the content grabber, Option Command. That would be Alt Control on Windows, remember. Let's bump that up a little bit more. You could see that the lights are similar in size, and that's important because it creates balance in your design, right? You want everything to be balanced. So something like that looks good. Let's press W, turn off our guides, move that, and then we could just adjust this. Might be too big. Option Command, scale it back down, move that up a bit, and we have our lights on the page now. Next, let's create smaller rectangle shapes that will later become the buttons in the interactive catalog. For this, let's click on the rectangle frame tool and then click anywhere on the page. And in the rectangle frame options here, let's make the width and height 20 pixels. Go ahead and click OK. And you can see there's my shape, and I'm going to drag it right under this light here. Something like that is fine. And for now, let's just make it the catalog gray fill. And I'll just create another one here, Option and drag, and just give it a little bit of space in between. Something like that is fine. I'm going to drag both of these and create copies and place them under each light. And again, use the guides that we created for organization. I'm going to select all of these and then Option, drag, and let's place these right under here. I just have to add another guide here to match that one, so go ahead and place that there is fine. Next, let's bring in the product descriptions and place them under each image in the layout. I'm going to bring over my Finder window again, and here I have a text file called catalog text. Again, I'm just going to click, drag, and bring it over into my layout. I'm going to scroll over to the left side on my pasteboard, and I'm just going to drag it out here. I'm going to select all, and I'm going to go to my properties panel, and in the basic paragraphs, hold Option or Alt on Windows and click basic paragraph. That will strip out any formatting in that text frame. And you see there's a description with a title for each of the following products. I'm going to start by creating another text frame below the main light image. And I want the depth of that to be something like 64, perhaps. We can adjust that after. And I'll start by selecting this first Luna pendant light, $149. Command X, you can cut that and paste it right in here. Now let's go ahead and format this. So I'm going to be using the font Benton Sans Condensed. You can use this font as well or use one of your own. So I'm going to select the title first, and in the font selector here, Benton Sans Condensed, and I want black. So there it is there, Benton Sans Condensed Black. And I'm just going to adjust that frame here so we can see all the text. Select the remaining text there, and this will be Benton Sans Condensed Book, and here it is here. And I want the point size of this to be 10, and I want the point size of the Luna pendant light to also be 10. And I'm going to zoom in a little bit here. Now I do have a tab here. If I press tab, you can see there's a space between. If I wanted to add a leader, just press Shift Command T to bring up your tabs window here, and then use a justification of your choice. I'll use justified left, and all you have to do is once you click that is go here into this white area and click, and then you can use the justification arrow to adjust the spacing. But in this field here where it says leader, you could just press a dot or a period and press tab, and you can see that that spaces out with those leader dots there. Once you have that, go ahead and close your tab. And what I also want to do here with this title is go to my space after in the properties panel under the paragraph. I just want to increase that to about, let's say 8. And so I could save this as a paragraph style, so it will save us some time. In my properties panel, just click paragraph style, and let's call this product header. And this here will be product description. Good, I'm just going to zoom back out here and go back to the text here, and I'll double click to collapse that. So we have our first text frame with the description there. What I'll do is I'll just create other copies of this same text frame to save us some time as well. I'll select all this, and we can go ahead and format this because we've already created our paragraph styles. Let's start by making it all product description. Then I can go in here and add the product header to all of these. And now I can grab this first one here and paste it in here. This here has some run-on text, so I'm just going to maybe delete a word or two, and we're all set there. I can snap that like so, snap this like so, just so it looks cleaner, and that's why we set up these guides, right? So we can actually set them up and snap them to the margins like so. So I can zoom out, and we have now our catalog design. Before moving on to the next step, I do want to add layers so all the products and all the descriptions are on their own respective layers. To do that, go to your layers panel, and right now all the content here, have a look, it's on layer 1. Now I'm going to create 6 other layers, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we want 7 in total. And the first one, let's name main light. The second will be light 1. The third will be light 2. The fourth will be light 3. And you can see we're just naming them in order. Light 5. And the last one is light 6. And so we'll leave all the content for main light on the main light layer. But what we could do now is select this content, and in the layers panel, once you see the indicator light on, just drag it to light 1 in this case. Light 2 is right here, so select the rectangle and the buttons as well as the details, and let's drag that to 2, and do that for all of them. Select all the content, and let's move this to light 3. This is light 4. Here's light 5. So we're just selecting the content on the page and dragging the indicator light to its respective layer. And you can see I can do that with this last one here. We're dragging it all the way to light 6. So now have a look. We have that. They're all on their own layers. And this will just make working much easier as well. You know where everything is. And it just makes the whole design process and the designing much more easier and organized as well. Next up, we'll focus on working with object layer styles, creating multi-state objects, and adding interactivity to the buttons in the project. Let me show you how this works. I'm going to click on the main light image here on the left, and then I'm just going to do Command C or Edit Copy, and then Shift Option Command V to paste in place. Now remember, I'm on the main light layer. That's important too. So have a look. You can see I have 2 copies of the same image. Now the one on the top, I want to right click and go to Object Layer Options. Now remember, these are PSD files, so the layers from the Photoshop files carry over to InDesign. And you can see in this case, one's called gray light, one's called orange light. I'm going to turn off the gray light layer and ensure that the preview box is checked. And you can see that I have the orange light layer now appearing. So once you have that, go ahead and click OK. And I want this orange light to go behind the gray version. So Shift Command left square bracket to send to back. And if I go to my main light layer here, you can see I have main light PSD duplicated. The top version is gray and the bottom is orange. We don't have to worry about the naming convention just yet. We'll do that afterwards. But this next part is important because I want to duplicate the color of the shade on this light with the buttons down below. So in this case, I'm going to click on this first one and then choose the eyedropper tool from my tools panel and just sample any of the gray in this light here, maybe something in the mid-tone, something like that. And you can see now that that gray matches my shade here. We're gonna do the same thing, only we're gonna hide this top version, click on this button now, choose the eyedropper tool, and then sample anywhere on this orange, something like that is fine. And you can see now I have an orange to match the orange shade and the gray to match the gray shade. To open the object states, go up to Window, Interactive, and choose Object States. I have mine open, so I'm just going to drag it here, and then go to Window, Interactive, Buttons and Forms. I also have this open, so I'm just going to drag it within the same window so they're next to each other and easy to access. Now the first step is selecting both of the images. Just do that here on the page. Use your selection tool, drag, and you'll have both of them selected. And in the Object States panel, go ahead and convert the selection to a multi-state object. Let me move this up. It's right here. This icon right here, click that. And now you can see we have state 1, which is the gray light, and state 2, which is the orange version. The first step is renaming this. So let's just call this main light. And then let's rename the states. That's important too. So let's call this gray, and let's call state 2 orange. Now our multi-state object is set up, and now we can add the button interactivity. I'm going to go back to Buttons and Forms, and let's start by clicking the gray button first. And in the Buttons and Forms, I want to change that or convert it to a button. Right now it's an object. We'll convert it to a button, and let's call this gray light button. Now the event, I do want to note that if this is going to be viewed on a mobile device or a tablet, then leave the event on release or tap. Now, because I want to show you how to add the rollover effect, for this case, we will choose on rollover. And the action here is go to state. So go ahead and choose go to state. Now you can see our multi-state object here. There it is, main light. And the state, if I click to collapse that drop down, you see we have both of them there. We do want this to trigger the gray version. I'm going to click on the orange square, the rectangle, and let's convert that object into a button as well. And let's call this orange light button. Again, the event here will be on rollover. The action will be go to state. The object name is main light, and the state will be orange. Now let's test this out. You can test it out by clicking the EPUB preview window icon in any of the interactive panels. It's usually in the bottom left-hand corner. Click that. That will launch the window. And let's have a look. If I hover over the orange, it switches to the orange version. I can go back and you can see it's a nice transition. You can toggle between orange and gray. So this is a great way for viewers and consumers looking at a catalog to get a sense of how the product will look in another color. Let's do another one, and then I'll show you how to publish this online and view it in a web browser. I'm going to move this off to the right a little bit. We're going to focus on light 1. So that's main light. Here's light 1. And again, I'm just going to select that and do Command C and then Shift Option Command V to paste in place. Remember, we have 2 versions of that. Right click, go to Object Layer Options. And you can see here I have 2 layers, one called Silver, which is the original. And if I turn that off and press OK, you can see I have a gold version, which I'm going to send backwards. So just hold Command or Control on Windows and use your left square bracket until it's behind the original silver version. You can see if I pull that over, I have both of them there. Now I want to convert both of these selections or this selection into a multi-state object. Go to Object States, click the Convert Selection to Multi-State Object icon, and you can see there are my states. State 1, which is silver, so go ahead and rename that. If you just click it once, it'll highlight, so let's call this silver, and let's call this one gold. And of course, let's rename the object name. This will be called Light 01. Let's click on silver because that's the original. Let's click on this first rectangle shape. Again, with your eyedropper tool, sample anywhere on the light. Something like that is fine. Click off. Click your multi-state object and then click the gold version of that. Then choose the second rectangle, eyedropper tool, and sample somewhere within that gold version. And now we can go back to silver. And let's set up our button now. So I'm going to click on this first one, go to Buttons and Forms, convert that to a button, and let's call this Light 01 Gray. And the action, or the event I should say, will be on rollover. The action will be go to state. Now here's the tricky part where you might miss this. Under object, the more multi-state objects you create, they'll all appear here. So here's Light 1. And the state, we want it to be left on silver. So leave it on silver. Now we can click on the second shape here, or the button, and let's convert that to a button as well. Let's call this Light 01 Gold. And so Light 01 Gold, the event will be on rollover. The action will be go to state, and the state, the object I should say, will be Light 1, and the state will be gold. Okay, so now we can test this out too. It's always important, test out the work to ensure that it's working properly. So I can hover over this one and then go back to gray. So that is working as intended. I'm gonna go ahead and finish off the rest of the lights in the layout, and then we'll publish this online. I've gone ahead and finished the rest of the button interactivity, and now it's time to publish the document online. To do that, click on the share button in the upper right-hand corner and then choose Publish Online. In the Publish Your Document Online window, give your project a title. You could choose all pages, which in this case we will because I only have 2. However, if it's a larger document and you only want to export 1 or 2 pages, you could choose the range. You can export as single pages or as spreads. Because this is a spread, I will choose spread. If I go to the Advanced tab, there are some other settings here in terms of resolution and JPEG quality. If you want the resolution higher, you could do that. And then once you're satisfied, go ahead and click Publish. Here's the document published online. I'm just going to go into full screen mode, and you can see I can hover over the buttons and those work as we set them up. So it's transitioning from one color to another, and this is using Object States and Buttons and Forms.
Thanks for watching, and I really hope you can add some of these techniques to your next digital catalog project. If you enjoyed this video and would like to watch more just like it, then check out this playlist right up here. Until next time, take care and keep creating.